The following program is presented to you by the Hope Channel Network.
True religion. Is there really such a thing? We're going to talk about that today on Between the Lines. Stay with us. Exciting things coming your way. True religion. Is there really such a thing? We're going to explore that today with Dr. George Knight, who is our very special guest. Heather, I don't know about you, but with so many religions in the world, I'm sure that people have questions like, how do I know what religion I should connect with? Or maybe the religion that I've had all my life is all I need. And maybe, just maybe, and the question could probably go on from there. I don't know, how do you feel about that?
Well, I think it's easy for people to just stick with the religion that they were born into, but then at some point you have to start asking questions, is this the truth? What do I need to know? So this is a great topic to explore.
Dr. George Knight, thank you for being our guest today. And as we talk about true religion, how do we identify what religion is possible to be true?
Well, that's an interesting question, because deep in the human heart is a quest for God. I think nearly all of us realize that there's something bigger than just humanity. I mean, just the universe itself. But we deal with all kinds of issues about how did we get here? How does life seem to have meaning? And the fact that we're faced with death. And there's something about death that kind of makes us ask questions beyond just like, how am I getting enough money to pay for this car? And so people around the world, all down through history, have had a quest for God.
Now, you had a quest for God because you have not always been a believer in God. Am I correct?
No, I was raised in at least I chose to be an agnostic. I said, it takes too much faith to be an atheist. I couldn't believe that all this stuff just came from nothing. You don't get order with no beginning. And so I actually became a Christian when I was 19 years of age. But I had to be convinced that there was something there.
So why did you end up choosing Christianity? I mean, out of all of the philosophies and religious orders of the world, I mean, why would you go that particular direction?
Well, and I must admit, I can't say that I've looked into all of them, but I've looked into the basic world religions. And Christianity is the only one that really has the answer to the world's problems.
And what is that answer?
Well, what is the problem? The problem is that we're faced with corruption. We're faced with what the Bible calls sin. And we're faced with the fact that how to sin is the one thing you don't have to teach your children. It's a universal. It's around the world. And the world history is dominated by selfishness and the big people taken away from the little people or the weaker people, whatever they can. How is God going to answer the sin problem? And that really is where Christianity is unique. Jesus is not like the Buddha. He's not a guide. He's not like Muhammad. He's not just a prophet. The Bible claims that Christ himself is God, and that he took our sin on him, and we have faith in him that he has really taken the personal issue. In other words, he has forgiveness, what the Bible calls grace, and also that at the end of time that Christ will come back again. The reform of all reforms is the second coming of Christ to put things right. I must admit, I have been driven by this topic, and some years ago, after I was a pastor, I got a little bit discouraged, and I went off and decided, well, maybe Christianity is not the answer. And I wandered in a far country for about 6 years, and I studied philosophies of revolution. I wanted to create change. And one day, I sat down after 6 years of this study, and I said, if all these philosophies, Marxism and all the rest of them, I said, if they're true, how come it's never worked? We've had, quotes, the answers for all these years. And I finally came to the conclusion, hey, these various philosophies don't have a significant analysis of the problem, and that is something is wrong. That something is sin, and basically sin focuses in selfishness.
Well, you know,
I love myself more than you, therefore I'm bigger than you, therefore I can take your stuff. And that works on the personal level and the international level. So we're not faced with just a salvation issue for people, but salvation for the world system.
Well, you know, what I think about, Heather, when we have that so clearly outlined, are two questions, and we don't have enough time in this first segment to explore both questions, but I do want to at least pitch them. First of all, you mentioned sin, and so how do we know sin? How can we identify sin? And then the second question is, because Christianity has had the opportunity to really come of age through the years and really come to understand what Christ is all about through various vehicles, the question that we have to also explore in this program today is, why has Christianity been basically such a bad representation of Christ? Mm-hmm. So, you know, before we go to break, you know, I just want to make...
That's a serious question.
It is. So we're going to go to break right here. We're talking with Dr. George Knight here on Between the Lines. Stay with us, and we'll be back to talk more about true religion. How can we know it?
For more information about any of the books presented today on Between the Lines, visit your local Adventist Book Center or go online at www.adventistbookcenter.com. If you are interested in receiving a copy of today's book and live in the United States and Canada, call 1-800-765-6955. That's 1-800-765-6955.